Hold on, it's loading. Good morning, everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the Business Planning and Development for FLCs session. Throughout the presentation, please type your questions in the Q&A feature. On the right side of your screen, the last 10 minutes will be for questions, so we'll get your questions read at that time. We also invite you to chat with one another using the chat feature, but please keep your questions in the Q&A area. And thank you to all the Ag Labor Forum sponsors. We appreciate your participation and your help with this event. Right now, I want to introduce our speakers. First, we have Blanca Wright. She's the CFO for Renteria Vineyard Management. She attended Sacramento State University and studied business administration and accounting. She currently serves as the president of CFLCA and vice president for the Napa Valley Community Housing Foundation. And Peter Nissen is the owner of Nissen Vineyard Services and is the treasured immediate past president of the California Farm Labor Contractor Association. So I invite you both to start, and we'll see you in a little bit for questions and answers. Thank you.
Good morning. I hope everyone is doing well this morning. Just want to start out, we've had a couple hiccups, so there's about 4 or 5 gadgets attached to us. So if something goes out, my apologies in advance. So today, Peter and I will be discussing business planning and development for FLCs, which I think is a really important topic for those of you that are looking to become an FLC or are a new FLC in the industry. While there's more and more FLCs being registered, I think there's room and business for everyone. And I just want to provide a high level view of, what to consider when becoming an FLC. So we'll go to the next slide. And I just want to say in advance, Peter cannot hear me, so we have to let him know when it's his turn to speak. So go ahead and put up the next slide. Jan, please.
It should be up. Is it up?
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Okay. So congratulations, you're a licensed FLC. Now what? One thing I'll say about becoming an FLC, I've worked with Renteria Vineyard Management for the last 10 years. They were already a licensed farm labor contractor in Vineyard Management Company. But like I said before, this is really important for those of you who want to jump into the business. But I wanted to start out with talking about some of the problems that we face and the top 4 problems that cause most businesses to fail. So number 1 would be your financing hurdles. A primary reason why small businesses fail is a lack of funding or working capital. You need money. So you're going to need these banking relationships with either your banks, the credit unions, SBA loans, etc. Number 2, inadequate management. Another common reason small businesses fail is lack of business acumen on the part of management team or business owner. So if you plan to go into business, you want to make sure that those that you hire to represent you and your business are trusted, they possess leadership skills, and they have your best interest at heart. And basically find the right person for the job. Don't force squares into circle pegs. Another thing, ineffective business planning. If you jump into FLCs, I've been to FLC classes where they've asked attendees why they have become an FLC. A majority of the responses are for the money. That's a great response, but while the money is great, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So business planning is crucial. I put a quote in there: plans are nothing, planning is everything. The 4th biggest mishap are your marketing mishaps. And also what I put in there is do not overpromise or overcommit. Many times we see new FLCs who start up and promise the moon. What ends up happening is you overpromise, overcommit, underdeliver, And that right there will be your biggest downfall for future clients or potential revenue. So, Peter, does Peter want to go into the legal part, Jan? Peter?
Okay.
Hi.
Go ahead, Peter.
Jan, I'm still having audio problems. So when Blanca gets done speaking, I can hear her, but there's a 6-second delay. So if she can just raise your hand or something, Blanca, and then I'll take over, okay?
Okay.
When you're finished talking. All right. Thank you, Jan and Blanca. Again, this is Peter Nissen. I am the owner of Nissen Vineyard Services. I just completed my 48th harvest, albeit not the prettiest, with COVID and the fires that we've experienced up here in Northern California. But I've been an employer for ag for 42 years. I started in 1978. Looking back, I only had one concern of one regulatory agency that most people were concerned back in the 70s, and that was the U.S. Border Patrol. Today, we probably I have 9 agencies that I'm accounted to, and the Border Patrol was not one of them. When I started back in 1978, we only had 2 FLCs that were registered in Napa County, and now there's probably close to 50. So the whole evolution of farm labor contractors has been quite remarkable. In that the compliance part of it, where before people thought they weren't obligated to be farm labor contractors, that when they were into vineyard management, has all changed. I also have a vineyard management company, but I also supply labor to a very large company, apart from our own business that farms in 3 different counties, Napa, Sonoma, and Lake counties. The labor force itself has changed dramatically. There weren't many women when I first started in the 70s, and now it's made a huge component of what we're doing. I also was able to go through the 1986 Simpson-Mazzoli Comprehensive Immigration Reform Act and was able to apply for 50 different plus employees that got their legal status in this country. And some of them still work with us today. So things have changed dramatically in the 48 years I've been in the North Coast. It's been a challenge. It's different each year, and it seems like from what you're learning today at the different sessions, how vulnerable you are for legal actions to be taken against you. So it's a whole different environment in 2020, and it doesn't sound like it's going to get any better with all the challenges we have as essential businesses with the COVID situation that's going on right now. So I'm still energetic and positive about being an agricultural employer, but the challenge is you really have to be on your A game. And some of the things that Blanca brought up, you have to be a very focused, disciplined business person. And that's why when we got together and discussed the different topics to go over today, we thought we'd bring some of the things that we've learned over the years and try to share them. And hopefully you as participants in this class can maybe take away a couple of very positive business tools that can be used moving forward in your future business endeavors. On the business planning decisions that Blanca, the 4 top problems, each one of us are going to kind of go over our own personal observations. But the one area that I'm most interested in to talk about is the inadequate management. And the evolution of agricultural management has changed dramatically, over the last 40 years. It's not a simple task to designate and look at potential supervisors, foremen, people that can help implement the policies that you as a business have set up. It's even more difficult today with all the obligations of trainings, whether it's sexual harassment or making sure that you're your supervisors are well versed in wage and hour and all the different behavioral science type issues that 20, 30 years ago, we were primarily a male workforce. And now with mixed genders working, it's more of a balancing act for individuals that are foremen and supervisors to be able to implement and get work done properly with the quality that you want, and make sure that people are in a safe working environment, not only for safety, but also the mental and the requirements of the state of California. Another thing that seems to always been an issue is nepotism in the workplace, and sometimes it unfortunately has connections with supervision and management. It seems like it's inevitable with every company. There are small pockets of different groups of people that work for you that are cousins and uncles and from the same little pueblos in their home countries. It's just the way you have to be able to source labor. Labor is, to me, is considered a valuable resource, and you don't want to lose the opportunity in today's world to train somebody and to lose them. So we're very keen on trying to instill within our workers and our supervisors a positive attitude about what they're working. We try to compensate them properly, and we'll go in that a little bit later is in our presentation. But the whole idea of making sure that people are also accountable, both the supervisors and the employees, all are part of making a management team a little more cohesive, and it simplifies, hopefully, the implementation of getting work done in the field. Blanca?
Great. Yeah, no, thank you for all of that, Peter. I think becoming an FLC is, like I said, super exciting, and I think there's room for all of us there. But the foundation of becoming an FLC and business planning would be, I think, starting out with the legal component, the formation of your business. How are you going to form your business? And basically, I think the first step is retaining a great attorney. We have plenty of presenters here today that we are connected with, that are wonderful attorneys that could represent you and your business. But I always say prepare yourself on being sued, because unfortunately, the climate that we're in today, there are people out there that are out to get your business and out to make money off of anything that they can. They're looking for a windfall effect of some sort. So ensure that you hire an attorney with ag experience. We're in a very unique industry. However, there's a lot of compliance that goes on, heavily regulated. So you want to be on. So ensure that you hire an attorney with ag experience to becoming an FLC. Also, how are you going to set up your business? What is the formation? Is it a sole proprietorship? Is it a partnership, a corporation? Speak with your attorney, and then also with a CPA to see what is best, what best suits you. I've seen historically in this industry where it's the father, and then it's the daughter or the brother that become a business. And as soon as the business becomes to a point where they've got a damaged goods and or bad reputation, they move the FLC over to another license. I would avoid all those costly mistakes by doing everything right in the beginning. I can't stress enough the importance of keeping your reputation, keeping up and not overcommitting. Like Peter said, there's room for everybody. We've seen a 40 to 50% increase in females in our industry. And the way that our company looks at our clients is we look at our employees as our clients too. We want to be the employer of choice. Becoming the employer of choice, understanding what the employee needs will mitigate costs in the future, because you don't have to invest on the on acquiring or hiring new employees. Invest in the ones you have because they will take care of you. Next slide, Jan. Okay, so the next.
Thank you, Blanca. I'm sorry, there's still
no
a delay.
problem.
So I want to just kind of piggyback a little bit on the legal part that Blanca just went over. I can't say enough about having legal representation, not only with employee issues, but also the setup of a company. And I remember when I first started, I used an attorney, and we did set up a corporation. There are a lot of issues that you can avoid as being a corporation, and part of that is having a veil of protection. As in a corporation, you don't put your own personal assets in harm's way if in fact there are legal challenges against your company. So you want to protect things. In our particular case, a lot of our assets are company owned, but also my wife and I own equipment, and one of the buildings that we have our business in, and we own that, and we lease the equipment and the office building and our shop back to the company. So that way you can get the benefits of tax relief from different 179 sections that'll give you accelerated depreciation. There's all kinds of things that legal minds and attorneys can help you. So I really can't emphasize how important it is to hire someone that can help set you up with a proper business entity that suits you best. And maybe a corporation isn't the best for everybody, but it definitely is. Corporations are most desirable, even for smaller people in a lot of cases. And I know that there are a lot of small FLCs, but for the most part, it's to the advantage of people to protect themselves. The whole idea of having a legally sound entity puts you in a better position when you are soliciting clients. They want to know how you're set up. They want to see how professional you are and how your entity operates, and it only enhances your marketability with potential clients and your existing clients. They want to know that they're being taken care of, and especially within today's world with joint employment and some of the other issues that are always seems to hang over ag employers. Thank you.
I think some of the mistakes or the missteps that I've seen are people trying to cut corners. When you cut corners, that's when you find yourself either strapped for cash. You find yourself in a position that you can't fully execute. Like Peter said, the more professional you look, the likelier you are to obtain contracts from those that look at an FLC and they look at how organized and what your business plans look like. So I urge you to take the time initially and set yourself up properly to retain those clients of choice that you want. When it comes to accounting, hire a CPA for tax preparation and tax planning. I can't stress enough how much the CPA and the attorney will work together to make sure that you're set up correctly. You need to make a decision on how you're going to pay your employees, whether it's going to be using an in-house payroll or using a bookkeeping firm. Again, making sure that the bookkeeping firm or whoever's going to be running your payroll understands the ag rules and regulations. Sloppy accounting also can lead to lawsuits and audits. And like Peter said, you have different agencies overlooking the way that you run the course of your business. So you want to ensure that you're preventing any potential audit, any preventable lawsuit for paying incorrectly, especially when we have piece rate pay, all sorts of different types of pay levels when you're doing, hourly plus bonus. A lot of things to consider when you're doing that. Another thing to consider purchasing or subscribing to is your software. which is if you're going to bring your accounting in-house, the accounting and the HR functions, there's great software out there for us to utilize. The HR software that we use helps us track all our safety trainings, help us track our employees, all sorts of stuff, so that it can also help you in advance prepare and plan for the year. You want to set up the proper chart of accounts for accounting, so that when you submit your financials to your CPA, everything is set up correctly. You also want to establish your billing rates, your billing frequency. You want to have a plan for your late payers. One thing we do, sometimes you'll be able to advance bill. We've had the opportunity to advance bill when we have larger projects that take up a lot of cash. What we'll do is we'll collect advances, and in some cases you're able to do that from your grower, only to keep you going and make sure that you meet your weekly payroll obligation. Other thing is who is preparing and how are you doing your contracts procurements. That's important, especially if you develop a great partnership. A lot of times up here in the Valley, we have a lot of handshake deals, but there are some that require some contracts. So you want to make sure you're preparing and having your attorney review those types of contracts going into any joint liability relationship. You also want to make sure that you have someone renewing your yearly FLC application. That's important. You want to make sure that that's done in a timely fashion, to avoid any lapse in FLC licensing. And then something else Peter and I talked about is just making sure that you have the right IT support, whether it's in-house or you're something that you outsource. A lot of times you develop these systems and they all work, but they don't all work together. So you want to make sure you have the right people helping support your organization and your business, so that you can take care of running the business. Another huge component of accounting, go ahead and put the next slide up, Jan, is partnering with a great insurance broker. I can't stress enough the importance of having the right insurance broker represent you and your business, and making sure that you understand what each policy covers, what the limits are, what your deductibles are. There's a variety of insurance policies out there: professional liability, auto, workers' comp, D&O, E&O, and business interruption. Most recently, Northern California was affected by the fires. That business interruption insurance really helped in covering the cost that we did not, or the revenue that we did not incur because we were forced to stop working due to the fires. So that really helped. And something else to take a look at is, how much money do you need? How much money is it going to take for me to get up and running as a business, as an organization? So how much capital to start this venture? And I think that it's all case by case basis, depending on the type of business that you want to provide, or by the services you want to provide. And I think this is where I can't stress enough the relationship that you build with your banker, having internal protections, having credit lines, making sure you have cross checks on everything that you do internally when it comes to finances and in your business. And then also just creating budgets. Make sure you create a budget that works for you, project out, making sure that those budgets are prepared in a timely fashion, so that you understand what you're going to need, how much you're going to need, and the timing of those expenses. And I'll go ahead and let Peter talk about business management and HR. Peter,
business management and HR, please.
Yeah. Well, I do want to talk about accounting. We both were going to kind of piggyback off of each other. So I did want to emphasize a few things about accounting. And in our particular situation, we do have in-house bookkeeping and our software. We do generate our own payroll checks. So I think it's easier for us to do it that way. We don't ship stuff out to a third source for payroll. It's easier for us, and we have converted over. We are in the process of finalizing going to electronic timekeeping. And I think, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But it's something that, because of the preciseness of timekeeping, we found that it was necessary to make the move, and it hasn't been easy, and there has been some reluctance and some training issues, but I think we're getting there, and we're starting to make the total conversion as things slow down post harvest this year. The other part of billing that I think is really important is that your clients understand your chart of accounts, and hopefully you can adapt it, which we've had to in a couple of clients, that they want their own chart of accounts, and we have to transfer it over. We try to be as accommodating as possible, as long as our categories are transferable to someone else's billing format, and we have that for a couple of larger companies that prefer just to keep in the same format that they're used to. Billing rates, how you collect money is always the biggest challenge, I think, and whether you're small or large, like Blanca referenced, it's not simple. Everybody has slow pays that invariably drag payments out, and sometimes I charge them more just because of the inconvenience factor of it. We try to have people pay within 10 days, and a good portion of them make a real valid effort to make that happen. As of FLC, so much of your business is tied up into labor payroll that it's imperative that you get people to appreciate what you're doing for them. People are having you do the work because they don't want to do it. They don't want to have to deal with the agricultural labor wage an hour and all the other requirements, whether it's through OSHA or all the other requirements that the state of California and the Department of Labor are brought upon you with MISPA and all the other issues that you have as challenges to be in compliance. So, having people understand your billing protocols and making sure that you get paid in a timely manner is probably the lifeblood of any business. And I agree with Blanca wholeheartedly that on big projects, you're going to have to either have advances, or in some cases, we've had clients pay direct to vendors. So we don't carry, that as a payable. Contracts, it's difficult for some people to understand, especially if they're not from California. Our biggest challenge is to get people to understand what indemnification is and laws that we have here in California. And some of them want to put everything on you if something goes wrong, even if they're negligent. So be really careful that you don't get into someone else's contract. Because I've had a couple where people have put it on my desk and I won't sign it because I run it by the attorney that we use. And it's important that if you do have contracts that have wording that's different from yours, make sure that the representation you have legally has an opportunity to look at it. The FLC application, I've been doing it for 28 years. This will be my 29th. I've always done it myself. I keep certain files in the computer. It seems like, though, every year there's more and more uploads, especially with people with their attestations for, sexual discrimination, sign-offs that haven't been involved in anything, and likewise with the FLCEs that we have. I know that there are certain insurance companies that do that for you. I think when you do it yourself, you have a better feel for where your responsibilities are to the state of California and the Department of Labor Standards Enforcement. As being someone who's been involved with the California Farm Labor Contractors Association for the last 11 years, I have been involved with some lobbying that's gone on. And, we've tried in the past to see if we can get rid of this yearly renewal where A lot of licenses, you don't even have to renew them with CE hours, and or some of them are every 4 years. I have a contractor's general engineering license with the state board, and I took the test 20 some years ago, and I just pay the money every 4 years. I don't even have CE classes. So we're held to a level of accountability that's not in any way, shape, or form equal to other contractors or contractor entities that are in different industries in the state of California. You know, we as FLCs have lived under sort of a stigma, and I think we're doing a better job of getting out of the negativity of being a farm labor contractor, that people think that maybe we exploit employees and stuff. I think that people understand now that, you know, over half of the employers of agricultural workers are farm labor contractors in the state of California. And I think people want to do a good job. The majority of the players that have the FLC license. And it's really important that your clients understand that also, and they take care of you as a good supplier of services to them for their agricultural operations. The thing that I wanted to emphasize in insurance that I think is really important is under workman's comp, because it's one of the few costs that you have that can be flexible and variable. I know that we meet at least 2 and sometimes 3 times a year for open claims, and we especially are concerned about before your reserves are established for the rating service for your XMOD, that you meet with your workman's comp carrier and go over your open claims and understand where they are with trying to either close the account or what still has to be done to make the person whole that had an accident. We've also gotten to the point where we're not happy with the results of our carrier, and we've pushed them to investigate. And in one instance, 6 years ago, we had somebody who had a fraudulent claim, and actually the district attorney of Napa County pressed charges, and he served time in jail. And it sent a message to people, at least in our business and company, that you know, we're concerned about people who are injured legitimately. When it's a fraudulent claim, they'll be careful and do all you can to push your carrier to investigate. Capital, what it takes to get going, banking relationships. Banking relationships to me are just as important as an attorney and a CPA in your staff that help you administratively. You know, they control the purse strings of whether you have credit lines or how they're working with you on your financial ebbs and flows of your business on a monthly basis, and anything you can do to make sure that they understand the ag sector. I think people, at least in our area on the north coast of California, are pretty reasonable and understanding. We personally work with American Ag Credit, and I think that I've gone away from them in the past and come back to them, and I'm really happy with someone who understands agriculture and some of the pitfalls that people can have in being undercapitalized and having cash flow issues. So be careful about that too. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in a little detail is budgets, and something that we do with budgets. I do most of them myself, but the summaries of them make it easier for me. And we don't really have another area to talk about this, but in our business, over 60% of the work we do is piece rate. And by doing piece rate, we are held to a higher level of accountability with the different types of work that has to be accounted for, whether it's rest and recovery or non-productive time. But I've been doing piece rate for over 30 years, and I can come a lot closer, I think, to my budgets, because I know what is allowable, where people can make good money. It also incentivizes our workers that I think we carry less people to do the number of acres we do. But with piece rate on a weighted average for the year, right now, our our workers are making $8 over our base, and that's all year round. It's not just for, a lot of people just use piece rate for harvest. We do it starting in pruning and winter tying and suckering and moving wires and canopy management and leafing, and do a lot of development work, marking, staking, putting in emitters. It's anything we can do to kind of incentivize people that can make more money, and it makes it easier for me to plug in numbers when I put in proposals to people for budgets on an annual basis. I think that's it. Blanca, if you want to, now we can go to the business management in HR.
Yeah, did you want to start on there, Peter, or do you want me to start? I guess I'll start.
Oh.
On the other component of starting your business is how you're going to manage your business.
If you want me to, I can.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Peter.
Not a problem.
Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead and start. Thank you.
Okay. On business management HR, I think that this is sort of the compulsory areas that are most important to make sure that people have their employees do are well rounded in what their, not only their legal obligation rights are, but also the employer, and it holds both the employee and the employer at a very evenly balanced understanding of what the expectations levels are of the company's policies. And in moving through this list of, the employee handbook, the updated hiring, of I-9s, W-4s, the employment application, training programs, all those can only enhance the efficiency of a company, although it takes a lot of time and effort. If something goes wrong, I can't say too much about how important it is to have documentation. And part of that especially goes with your injury, illness, and prevention plan. I know that we're always changing it, especially the trainings, and especially with what we just are going through with COVID. It's not a simple task to stay on top of, but I can tell you that it's important that the employees understand it and your supervisors understand it. And you should have a really strong HR program, is the bigger you become, to make sure that you stay up with these compliance issues. There's a lot of different classes that HR staff members can take. I know that the APMA program, the Agricultural Professional Management Association, is something that's well thought of, just to keep people in the administrative side of HR on a strong side of being in compliance. The benefit side of HR, there are things that are mandatory through the Affordable Care Act, but anything you can do as an employer to enhance that, whether it's vacation days for people. We have a profit sharing plan that we set up 23 years ago, that about half of the employees qualify for, because we make it 1,000 hours of work per year to be eligible. And that way we're not subject to the CalSavers situation that went into effect this year. The whole thing about professional memberships and networking, I can't say enough about the CFLCA and the things that I've learned and networked connections that I've had. And I thought I had a lot before, but with all the resources that are available either online or through the different members that I've met at functions or being on the board of directors, it's such a positive situation to kind of negotiate the white waters of an agricultural employer. I guess the most important thing that I would like to kind of put forward on what an employer should be perceived as is you want to be hopefully perceived as a preferred employer. We make that effort. We were just looking yesterday, and we calculated that 78% of the people, whether they're our core group or seasonal, returned in 2020 over 2019. You do have a lot of attrition and lose people, but the more people that return to work for you is always a positive in setting up and training people for what your expectation levels are of work quality. Other than that, I think that I'll let Blanca talk about organizational charts, and we do have one in our company. And sometimes we have to refer to it when, especially supervisors, need to be kind of directed on who their direct superiors are and who they work over. And then I already kind of touched on the piece rate, salaried hourly. In our situation, we have a base rate, but it's sort of not as important as it is to how much people are actually earning on an hourly basis, weighted over the year. I think that's it. Do you want to go ahead now, Blanca?
Yeah. Something I just want to piggyback on is, there's a lot of us that attend these conferences. You meet a lot of great people, a lot of organizations and businesses that are wanting to do the right thing. And I think for me, one of the best resources I had was just meeting and speaking with everybody that's in the industry to try to get and gather ideas on what are they doing, how are they keeping abreast on all the new high culture components that, keep their employees coming back. I think it's great that we can all lean on each other and call and reach out to each other to ask for professional advice when necessary. Don't take it on by yourself. Know that there are people out there that are willing to help you, willing to talk to you. I remember one of my college professors saying, either you're going to run the books or you're going to run the business. So don't do it all. So make sure you have the right people in the right places. And this is why it's so important as you grow to develop that org chart and make sure you have the right people doing the right jobs. For us, we're up to about 150 full-time employees. And during our heavy seasons, we have a little bit over 500 employees. So it's important that you make sure that your employees know who to talk to, your employees know who their supervisor is, who they're taking orders from, and making sure that those that are leading your company are also value the culture and instill the culture in your company. One other thing is making sure that you have the right people in place for OSHA preparedness. What happens if you have an inspection? Who's going to respond? Making sure you have all those resources available to you. And also, Peter and I spoke about this where, sometimes you need your state and federal agencies close to you when you get yourself in a situation that you need the support or need some advice on how to address these things. Make sure that you are using those resources as well. And in closing, I know this is very high level. I did want to add that Peter and I are not attorneys. So, these are kind of some suggestions that we have for those that are learning or wanting to become FLCs or just starting out. Our email and our contact information is on the slides if you have any questions. But also just in closing, just considering some other things of what type of farming services your company will provide. Are you going to be providing just labor? Will you provide equipment and labor? Our company is a full service vineyard management company. We have equipment, labor, we have tractors, sprayers, all sorts of planks, harvesters to do the work that we need to do for our clients. Also, we own our bathrooms and trailers are those things that are going to be, rented or leased for you to comply with the expectations of being an FLC. Will you provide transportation? Will you provide housing? That's another component. And some people start small, and as they get bigger, they layer on more services to help them be more successful. And then also considering, mechanization. Are you going to mechanize? We're coming to a point where, knock on wood, we haven't experienced too much of a labor shortage. We did a couple years ago, but we're okay now. But as we grow and as we go into the future, what's going to happen to our labor? Do we need to mechanize? Also plan and budget for CapEx purchases. Those are big purchases and big ticket items that you need to consider when you have many people who need to, you need to provide a vehicle to, things like that. And then I know something else that Peter touched on was your billing rates. What is your equipment billing rate going to be? Is it going to be built into your overhead? Are you going to bundle? What is your overhead going to be set at? These are all things that I think in speaking with your colleagues and speaking with people in your area will be happy to share with you so that you can get a good sense of where you need to start out. So I hope this helped. I hope for anybody who's looking to become an FLC, I hope you jump in. There's plenty of room and plenty of business for you, and wish you the very best.
Blanca, we do have one question. What are the most critical issues FLCs need to be concerned with in regards to written contracts with their clients?
You know, I want to say for us, it's not one size fits all. It's very dependent on, you know, the client, what they're expecting, but also just making sure that you have protections and clauses in there that protect you. I mean, I know that there's the joint liability component of it. But I think making sure that I don't want to give any legal advice on that, Jan, but I think working with your attorney to make sure that that you're protected is one of the most valuable ones.
Peter, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I forgot to mention, and I appreciate Blanca bringing it up. And I was the one who mentioned and brought up the fact about local resources. And I wanted to just share, in the past, over a number of years, I've only done this a couple times, that I've had issues with IRS where they're contesting, you know, whether it's a payroll deposit or whatever. And it's been very, very helpful to go to my congressman. I did it 30 some years ago, and I've done it more recently with Mike Thompson's office. It's amazing what a resource like a federal elected officials staff can do to hopefully help you. Not necessarily always, but they can give you direction if they can't. And in both cases, they did resolve an issue that I didn't think I owed, or I was owed money, and there was a delayed payment and a refund. And likewise in the state level, you know, there are different individuals, you know, whether it's an assembly member or a Senate member, that if you know them locally, or introduce yourself, and you can do that through the CFLCA. Understand, you know, that maybe they are going to be an advocate for you if you've got issues that, you know, whether I've heard people even use their local elected assembly members or senators when there's OSHA issues in certain localized areas within the state of California. So you have that to deal with too. We are similar to Blanca's operation. We're much smaller, and I chose to be that way. I used to be bigger, and you take on growing pains that sometimes the bandwidth is so wide that I didn't want to continue. But we're strong enough that we have about 50 full-time employees, and we have less than 250 total, and it's a comfortable level. But still, having labor and the need to offset labor with mechanization, like Blanca mentioned, is really important. And in today's world, artificial intelligence is making up a lot of grounds for work that sometimes is time sensitive. And if the work and labor is not available, it's nice to have, you know, alternatives to complete your jobs. I think other than that, I'm kind of covered everything we wanted. And likewise, what Blanca said, you know, we're here just to share information, what we've learned, and it's not legal or binding, but if you need that, you know, go to the appropriate professionals. Thank you.
Peter, I do have one more question. We're at about time. Once again, everybody visit the exhibit hall. But Peter, you touched on nepotism. Can you expand on what you've done to ensure it doesn't become a problem, i.e. favoritism?
As much as we can, we've tried to separate family members, relations as much as possible, especially if there is a situation where a supervisor has family members, you know, as much as possible. You don't want to have the perception of favoritism, and nepotism is something that I've been around all my professional career in agriculture. and it's not simple, but sometimes you have to explain to people in that this is the way it is in 2020, and your perception of how you're treating other people is very, very evident, especially when they know that there's a relationship, through family. And I think everybody who has crews always have individuals that are linked somehow with family members. And even within the crews themselves, sometimes you have to be careful about the onslaught of bullying and other things as people line up as family members against other people. So I guess you just have to be a heightened alert and separate people as needed, if in fact they can't be pleasant and accommodating, in a work environment. And I don't want to say how more than that. It's on a per need basis, but it's something that you should always be aware of, especially if you've got supervisors that have family members that are underneath them.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Blanca and Peter. Terrific information, chock full of facts and figures, and it was great. Thank you. Thank you. Once again, everybody, visit the exhibit hall. We'll see you at the next session in about 10 minutes. And enjoy the session. Make sure to check all the recordings after the event is over. Have a great day.
Thank you.